Back, everyone. I am still in the same room. I'm still behind the same camera. Tyler is still smiling at me and the light is shining in my face. But you know, I am really excited about 2021, to be very honest. Now, I know I'm an optimist, and that helps. I know that my gifting seeks to empower, my gifting seeks to equip people and enlarge people into a bigger story. I get infuriated when I see us surrender to the work of the enemy that wants to shrink us into a much smaller world, getting us to live in a survivalist, deceived worldview, when in fact God is still at work here. Merrill and I had a great conversation with Yaku and his leadership team from Toronto, Canada last night. And it was one of those times where I heard my mouth say in a question and answer Zoom session, I said, you know, God hasn't changed the tune on what we are called to do as the church. All that He's asking us to do is change our how we do it, but the what remains exactly the same. And I'm very inspired by the opportunities we have in this hour, at this time, to be deeply Spirit-led. They asked me a question about how are we coping pastorally when we're not able to meet. Their lockdown is more significant than ours is right now. And you know, my mind went instantly to an increased dependence on the work of the Holy Spirit. I'd be driving from getting some groceries or dropping something off, and the Spirit of God would say, text so-and-so, call so-and-so, invite someone to my patio to come and sit here. I have this little kind of 6-foot thing going. And each time the person's response would be, well, how did you know? Or why are you doing this? Or if it's a pastor somewhere in the world, it's equally, actually, I was just thinking about A, B, and C. What a great time to ramp up our antennae, to be spiritually sensitive, to be led by the Spirit, to pivot as the Spirit speaks, to be flexible and mobile, to be filled with the inertia of the Holy Spirit's work within us and within our community for such a time as this. And I go back to Nehemiah because remember what we spoke about last time. 2020 was a year of survival, feeling the nudgings of the Spirit that 2021 really is about rebuild, bracket, capital R, capital E, close bracket, build, as we saw in chapter 2. I want to talk just for a moment about the condition of Jerusalem and parallel it to the condition of the church as we end this first year of the pandemic. So let's read it. Nehemiah chapter 1, I will pick up in verse 3. Remember, his brother has come from Jerusalem and other officials were there. And he says, please tell me, what is the condition of Jerusalem, the city, and the people therein? And they said to me, those who survived the exile. Doesn't that sound familiar? We feel like we're in exile. We've survived this brutal time. He said, are back in the province and are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down and its gates have been burnt with fire. And when I heard these things, I sat down and wept. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. That's an incredibly powerful passage. I think it describes the church at this time, invisible, in exile, surviving, hanging on for dear life, hoping we can make ends meet. I was on a phone call this afternoon and a pastor friend was telling me of a mutual pastor friend who, because of the pandemic, has shrunk from about 150 to 20. He's fried. He's done. He wants out, looking to merge his church. Another pastor in the city just announced this week, this Sunday, to his congregation, he is leaving. Just chaos and calamity and confusion, all of which has happened as we see here. It goes on to say that the Jerusalem is in great trouble and disgrace. You know, folks, the political landscape is exceptionally complicated in the US, and forgive me for limiting it to us here now. The white evangelical church is very strongly attached, its affiliation, its affection, even its prophetic support to a personality, Trump, and to a party, the Republican Party. Whenever that happens, honestly, the hairs on the back of my neck rise up, because we become blinded by our loyalties and we become desensitized to the non-Christian components of that person and that party. As individuals, obviously, we have the right to vote and support whomever we wish. However, when it comes to a public statement, bringing a cross to a rally, praying Christian music, well documented by those who attacked the Capitol last week, we realize that there is an attachment between Christianity, and in this case white evangelicalism, and a formula, a message, a worldview that is incredibly unhelpful. Can I say with a broken heart that I believe, and this is only my opinion, well actually it's not only my opinion, but it is mine, that we're in trouble and disgrace because of the strong Trump Republican Party affiliation that it has set us back years. The public cry of prophecies that Trump's going to have a second term and all that goes with it has been disgraceful. And it has dishonored the gospel of Jesus, and it has set us as a public witness and testimony back at a time when the number of people attending church is shrinking significantly, statistically. But we saw it here. And it goes on to say, the wall of Jerusalem is broken down. I know the exegesis of that is the historical nature of a real city with real walls. But the prophetic application is that the wall often relates to and points to people. Living stones joined together, meshed together, glued together by faith in a common mission. And so we can easily apply this to mean that the church at this time, as a wall, is broken down. Churches are fragmenting. People are not gathering in community and doing life together. The walls are broken down, and the gates, metaphorically, prophetically speaking about leadership, the gates have been burnt with fire, discredited leaders. And I don't want to go into all of that right now again. Sufficient to say what Nehemiah describes, or what they describe to Nehemiah, represents the state and nature of the church right now. Now you may be asking me, Chris, does that create despair for you? Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It is the moment in which we can look at ourselves in the mirror most ardently and fervently. I had a young couple come and sit with me this morning. I listened to this young girl describe with great self-awareness her family of origin and how it affected her. Not in any way with anger, bitterness, and resentment, but with honesty that will allow her healing. You know, Nehemiah goes and inspects the city at night. He doesn't do a big song and dance about it, but he honestly critiques, can I apply it to us today? He critiques the church honestly and with great self-awareness, and that's the beginning of the journey. 2021, if we're going to rebuild, we have to get back, critique honestly, without judgment, but honest biblical assessment. What is the condition of our church and the church, so that we can get going and build the walls and hang the gates once again. 2021, a very exciting year lies before us. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you soon.